Welcome back to the Nerdrotic podcast. My name is Gary Buechler. I come to you from nerdrotic.com and I am live in San Francisco, California. And down in Hollywood, we have Jon Reed. What is up, Jon?
What's up? Star Wars. I saw it today, so I'm all amped. I know you've had a day to like marinate in the Star Wars-ness, but I just got back about an hour ago from seeing this thing. So, man, I'm excited to talk about this one.
Apologies there. I just heard myself. Our live stream popped up on a delay. Yeah, so it's fresh on your mind. I saw it last night. Our co-host Dennis Bethalkis is out on assignment today. So he wanted to be here so bad, but he has a holiday party to go to for where he works in his.
And he hasn't been able to see it yet. So, yeah.
Yeah, he tried to go see it and he couldn't get tickets because this thing has been sold out everywhere. And I had to see it by myself. Usually I like to do this with the family, but they gave me permission for the podcast because we had a few people request, which is cool. I love having requests.
Yeah.
So, wow, this is gonna be. I don't want us to lose any subs. I'll be honest, but
I'm good on this movie. Like, I don't know about you, but my Facebook feed is like, and I know you're pitching it as like old fans versus new fans and stuff like that, but I've seen a split amongst both of people who have been like, I really liked that movie, and people who are like, that's not very good. I don't know what the reviews were talking about. Like, it's Disneyfied and all this. So I think that this is going to be fun because I think that this podcast, each of us will represent one part of that argument. And I can see both sides, but I'm going to argue the one that I feel I represent and my personal enjoyment level of this movie, which is I thought it was really, really fun. Like I wasn't spoiled on anything, and going into it, I had seen both sides of the argument and didn't know what side I was going to come down on because both of them sound like both of the like, oh, it's really Disney, it's too funny, the moments get ruined by some of the writing and there are problems and stuff. Like I was like, ooh, that sounds very prequel-ish. Like and then the other side was just like, I don't know what those people are talking about. Like I thought their movie took chances and everything. And I was like, oh, well, I don't want like a Star Wars that takes like a ton of crazy chances. Like that's not what. So I actually didn't know how I was going to feel. And I just kind of kept my mind open going into it. And I came out of the theater kind of like, that was good. I don't think it's great, right? Like it's not, the people saying it's as good as Empire and shit like that, they're crazy. But I do think that it was like really entertaining and not entirely predictable. I thought it went some interesting directions with it, and I like where it sets the trajectory. Like I liked how Force Awakens set the Star Wars tone back in motion after the prequels, which didn't feel like Star Wars movies to me anyway. Like Force Awakens felt like a Star Wars movie with all its flaws. This movie felt like a Star Wars movie, had less flaws, and put the trajectory into like a completely new place. The Skywalker saga is essentially, ending in its own way. And we're starting this new story of, and again, this is a spoiler cast, so we assume you've seen the movie. If you don't want a spoiler cast, leave, get the fuck out. We find out that Rey is as the Kylo Ren put it, a nobody, and this is going to be her story, apparently, supposedly. So, I like that. I like that we're seeing just a completely new trajectory for the series. So anyway, that's my basic opinion on it, and I was happy coming out of the theater. You though texted me after, you seemed less so.
Yeah, I tried to really withhold my opinion because I wanted to sleep on it, and it did not change. It actually got a little worse as things go on. And I want to preface this by saying this is my opinion. This is my opinion alone. Just because I think a movie is bad doesn't mean it is bad. And I don't think that much of my opinion. I am not a film connoisseur. I watched movies for a long time. But I will say, yeah, there was no enjoyment level at all in this movie, and it started from beginning to end, and it was basically the treatment of Luke Skywalker. The treatment of Luke Skywalker was an abomination, nothing short of an abomination, and blaspheme to Star Wars. Now, there's different kind of Star Wars fans, all right? There's Star Wars fans like me who were alive and saw the originals in the theater most of them on opening day. I was very young when the first one came out. I was 7, so I don't remember much of it. I remember loving Chewbacca. That was it. But Empire was the first like sci-fi movie that like blew me away, and it was so different. That's why when I see Better Than Empire, it's usually younger people who just weren't there for the experience, and I can't blame them for that. That is not anything. It might actually be better than Empire to them, because Empire might be just this old movie, you know, with weird special effects. And a lot of people, an entire generation, has not seen what those movies were in the theater. They've seen the Lucas cut of them, the special editions. I'm sure if you try hard enough, you can find the real copy, but it's hard to find.
Yeah.
The true what was shown in the movie theaters.
There was this crazy Blu-ray box set that I had to specifically hunt down to get the original cut of the movie. It came with all the other cuts too, but it had the original cut. And I can't stand all the look. I have to just say, everything aside from the original trilogy, original cut, up until Force Awakens came out, like the whole prequel stuff, all of the added crap from when I was a teenager, all that stuff I hate. Like I've never thought it brought any added value to Star Wars ever. And so I can see how the bar has lowered. And so some people are saying like, oh, these movies are great Star Wars, because it had just been lowered so far away from where it had been set that now just like decent Star Wars is like great Star Wars, right? I don't know. To me, like, I was smiling the whole time. This is something that sums up the experience in the movie theater. I was expecting like, the scroll to go and everyone cheering at the very beginning, and then like as the movie would go on, but nobody cheered at the beginning of this movie. Like I was like, oh shit, this is going to be a terrible audience. But as the movie went on, you started hearing a little more cheering, a little more stuff. When the big moment happened where Kylo turns on Snoke, the whole theater erupted. Like the movie like had it pulled the audience that I was with into it. Like it didn't seem like an audience that was particularly hyped at the beginning, at least from their reactions. But as it went on, it got more and more. And I think that says something about the way the movie developed, right? Like I thought it was very engaging. And I don't know. I can see what you mean about the Luke Skywalker treatment. I want you to go into more how you.
Yeah, this movie. By the way, my crowd did not cheer at the end, the beginning, the middle, at any point.
Huh.
It is a San Francisco crowd, okay, and clapping is way. I mean, like clapping. Oh my god, we don't do that in San Francisco, but yeah, not a peep when the movie ended. I saw it at 8:45, so it was more of an adult crowd. The treatment of Luke Skywalker, he was a grumpy coward. A grumpy coward, and I'll just get right to it. He didn't fight with a lightsaber. The projection was probably one of the dumbest ideas in Star Wars. Right next to Mary Poppins Leia flying through space, which was like I got groans. That's what we got for that one.
Really?
I did not groan. I was quiet through the whole thing, and I actually had my notepad. It's really hard to write in the dark, by the way. But with the treatment with Luke Skywalker, I think Mark Hamill's initial reaction that he was obviously told to shut up on and start towing the party line because he was under contract, but he let it slip in the beginning. He was not happy with what Rian Johnson did. And then he went back and said, no, but then I was blown away. And it seems like it was almost written for him. And Mark Hamill's always been a bit of a loose cannon. So it'd be really interesting to hear what he thinks once all the dust is settled and this is said and done. He cannot be happy how Luke was treated. Now, is Luke dead? No, he's going to be a Force ghost.
He's going to have a Yoda
scene. It looks like Force ghosts can do stuff now because Yoda came out of freaking nowhere and zapped a tree with lightning, which like, well, where the hell were you, Yoda? If you can just show up and zap a tree with lightning. I think I did mention the guys that how it should have ended are going to have a field day with this movie because there's so many plot holes that we will get into. I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan anymore. kind of like with Star Trek, I just kind of checked out because a brief history on Star Wars. Star Wars has not been super popular for 40 straight years. It hasn't. After Return of the Jedi ended, it was a little bit popular. There was an action figure line that ran until about early 1985, and then it was out of the consciousness completely. People didn't think about it. The Star Wars comic at Marvel kind of waned out. And it was in the early 90s when Dark Horse got a hold of it, and Timothy Zahn did a couple of books, and the popularity started ramping up slowly, and then it really got popular again in 97 when it hit the 20th anniversary, and George Lucas brought out, they re-released the special editions, which at the time were really fun to see. It was just fun to see Star Wars again and relive your childhood. And that was the first Star Wars resurgence. It was huge. All three of those movies were #1 for that week. I remember Howard Stern being pissed off because one of the Star Wars re-releases beat his movie Private Parts, and he just ripped about it on the radio. And it was all good. It was all good. Star Wars was cool. Okay, which something it never was. It was never cool. You used to get shit for liking Star Wars when I was a kid. So just a brief history on that. But I haven't been a super fan since the prequels. That kind of checked me out. I lost interest. To me, the canon was ruined. This myth of Obi-Wan and Anakin's fight that all of us Star Wars fans had in our head was really not. It was never as good as what we had in our head, and it couldn't have been. You can't blame George for that. George did his best, and it wasn't good. And George has gotten a lot of crap, which I don't think he deserves, actually. I mean, it was his baby. He's allowed to do what he wants. But Disney deserves crap. They deserve a lot of crap. And, you can mire stuff in success. Listen, Batman and Robin made money. The Batman and Robin movie, which was awful. And that's what I equate this franchise to now. Not in it's like, this movie was clearly better than Batman and Robin. But Batman and Robin was an effect of when Warner Brothers just fully got its claws and its teeth into a franchise, and the creative people were just completely pushed out, and it just became marketing. Like each scene in Last Jedi looks like it was put in front of market research before. I mean, it was submitted to.
I feel like I was
market research.
Okay.
No. Okay. I'm going to use your own words against you, John. It was a series of moments put together with no connective tissue at all. I mean, it was basically a big long trailer. The scene, I'll give you an example. The scene where Luke says, R2, watch your language. That was pretty much the entire scene of him and R2. They left out the bad CG projection of bringing back Star Wars. And they not only remade Empire on this, they remade Empire and Jedi. There were scenes directly out of Jedi it just turns to Jedi at the end. Now, do I have good things to say about this movie? There are some good stuff. There wasn't some improvements. But as an older Star Wars fan, and just as me, I did not enjoy it at all. And I thought, and it was just the Luke Skywalker thing. I could live with everything else, to be honest with you. I could live with Leia flying. I could live with Rey's lack of development. They tried. They clearly tried. You could hear in this movie, it was obvious they listened to some fans because they made some changes and squashed some stuff. The Snoke stuff, I can even forgive Snoke being a zero character, like a useless character. He was just a means to an end. And it looks like they're making this thing up as they go. Yeah, it really does. And that's the most disturbing part is you have this huge franchise. You have time. Take 3 years between. Don't take 2, take 3, like Lucas did, because it takes that long to develop a good movie. And if Rian Johnson's going to be your guy to take you to the I don't know, man. I don't know. Now, again, this movie's going to make $1 gazillion, and I could be wrong, but then again, another movie you and I disagree on, Avatar, made $1 gazillion too, and I hate that movie too. So I don't know. I could be wrong, and no, I don't want to.
It's not wrong or right? Like it's personal taste. Every experience you have at a movie is personal taste. Everything on TV, like people like CSI. You know, like people think
Yeah.
that shit's fun, and like I can't sit through an episode of that. Yet I can watch an episode of Law and Order, and it's fine. You know, like so. You know, everything is taste, and for me, like I want, like I could care less about. I not care less. There are certain things that would bug me that if they changed, and like there are certain things that would bug me, but like advancing the force powers and like I actually thought this movie did the best at explaining the force when Luke is training Rey for that 5 minutes. Like where he explains how she's looking into the different aspects of the world and what the force is. I never thought of it that way before, and I thought it was a really cool way of explaining what the force is. And it's like, holy shit, like that's brilliant. So now everything that you apply has to have to do with the, you know, the force between two opposing entities, and the middle point of balance is where what the force is, right? Like I love how they explained that. Sorry for hitting my microphone. I just love how they explained that in the movie and kind of applied it to things. And like the Leia floating stuff, one of the things that they're doing right now, which is probably constraining them the most. I look at a lot of this stuff as less of a Disney problem and more of a Carrie Fisher problem. That
Yeah.
they're trying so hard to keep her thread. Like there were some really touching moments with Carrie Fisher's, you know, with Princess Leia in this movie. But the fact that they're working with like old footage and they're trying to cobble together a performance for somebody who passed away through, you know, once filming started, it's really, really tough. And I think that that's almost why it feels more disjointed and weird, is you just have like one of the characters who has more screen time than a lot of other characters, who's like, who they're talking to like a projection of, who, you know, like they're acting with like someone who's delivering opposing lines who isn't even there to do that. So, you know, I feel like there's a Carrie Fisher issue in trying to keep Leia involved in these movies as heavily as they have. And that's a lot of it, right? Like the scene where she gets blown out into space and you think she's dead, and then all of a sudden you see that, you know, she's just as powerful as Luke. Remember, like at the end of Jedi, it's like, no, these are the two badasses, these Skywalker kids. And we've never seen her be badass before. And now we see like she basically like brings herself back to life and like floats through. Like that was cool. Like I thought that was a cool like Leia moment, but they're operating with whatever random footage they have of her and CGing. You know, like I think it's a problem with that almost more that like a lot of the disjointed scenes, I just gave them the, you know, I said like, well, I understand why this scene played a little funny because they had Carrie Fisher footage and then they like brought Mark Hamill in to work against that footage to get this scene. Like the final scene between Leia and Luke, they had to figure out a way to make that happen. And like that's tough to do when you don't have one of the actors there to deliver the scene. So I don't know. I think that that's one of the big problems with the movie, is that Leia had more screen time than Chewie, than she probably, I don't know. She's got somewhere near as much screen time as Luke in this movie. Like she's in the movie a lot and she wasn't there for a lot of it to film it. So, you know, that stuff's a little bit funky. But for, you know, I just think in general though, like there were things that I was worried about happening in this movie that it would go too dark, and it didn't, but it also wasn't too light. Like the idea, like Finn was another character that I thought was so much better in this movie than I expected him to be. I couldn't care less about Finn in the last movie, but like I thought that actor did a great job. The whole Rose storyline I loved. Like I'm probably going to be the only person who likes Rose, but like him there, like the casino, like going to the casino, like the little adventure that Finn and Rose and BB-8 had was some of my favorite stuff in the movie. And it seemed like it's, you know, it didn't, that's not something I'm used to seeing in a Star Wars movie, quite honestly, but it still to me felt good. I don't know, I liked it.
I'm still trying to figure out what that whole story arc, what did it produce? Like what
So
they did nothing. They went to the casino.
Yeah, because they screwed up.
Yeah. Okay. But it's still supposed to story-wise lead to something. Even if it screws up, it's supposed to lead to something else. It was just, it was a screw up. So we just went on a big side adventure. By the way, the timeline of this movie, so it happens in the course of a day?
No, that's not a day.
A couple days? Because they're just running from the Empire, I'm sorry. I'm going to call them the Empire. Screw it.
Yeah, what are they?
The First Order.
First Order.
Yeah. That casino scene, the only thing that stood out to me, Rose wasn't bad. As a character, she was all right. Finn is all right. I mean, they're nothing. I don't think they add much to the story, but they weren't terrible. And the chemistry between those two was pretty good.
Did you think they dressed Poe like Han Solo in this movie?
No, I think
Did you get a Han Solo vibe off him?
No, because there's God, this is where we're gonna get controversial. There's zero masculinity in this movie.
No, not his
Poe is a bad boy, and they showed that he's reckless, and they shouldn't be. We don't want a hero in Star Wars. They chastise him for being a hero, and in a Star Wars movie, which I thought was hilariously stupid. The other bad thing was when they were in the casino. And Rose is doing her anti-rich people thing, which is great. And all I could think about was this is the company that just bought another company for $54 billion today.
Right.
And bad rich people. I'm just, okay. All right. Fine. Yeah. And that whole Benicio del Toro was good in it.
I thought he was fantastic.
And I don't know why his character was there. He just randomly showed up. That wasn't the code guy they were looking for. So a lot of lucky things happened in this just big universe.
It was unlucky because they got thrown in jail looking for the real code breaker. This guy said he was going to help them, but really he betrayed them to the first.
It was unlucky that they got caught because he wouldn't have betrayed him if he did. That's what he said. He's like, hey, you got caught. Sorry. And he's clearly going to come back. And he was a good character. I love Benicio del Toro, by the way. He's a great actor. And did I say, is it Benicio del Toro? I was going to mix up with Guillermo del Toro. That's right. Benicio del Toro.
Benicio. I know, I did. Dude, I was watching the movie and he came and I was like, is that Benicio? Wait, del Toro. Wait, is it which del Toro? Like I literally had that inner monologue going on as I was watching it.
He was good with his little stutter, and I thought it brought something different to Star Wars. But then the whole horseradish, horse-rabbit, I called him horseradish, racing horse animal cruelty thing was horrible and cringy as hell. And yeah, that scene was bad. I mean, just the CG on it was bad. Everything about it was bad to me, anyway. And I'll get to the good later. I will talk about like what is good in this. It's not going to be, but as Rose is a character, I think she's going to get a lot of hate that probably doesn't deserve. I thought she was okay.
My wife turned to me and was like, after the movie, it's funny. She's like in between she liked The Force Awakens a lot. And she came out of this one and was like, she's like, what do you think? And I was like, I thought it was pretty good. And she was like, yeah. Like, yeah, I could tell she was kind of like, it was okay. And so she was like, what did you think of Rose? And I was like, I thought she was a cool character. Like, it came out of nowhere. I didn't expect it. Like, I liked that this thing happened for Finn. And, I liked the adventure they went on. I thought she brought a lot of heart to the movie. It was good to have like a leading Asian female in a big Hollywood picture like this, and she held her own. I liked the relationship she had with her sister. I thought the scene where her sister has to basically like suicide bomb, basically sacrifices herself to make sure that Poe's stupid plan happens correctly. Like I thought, and then I thought all of that was so cool, and she was just like, yeah. And I was like, okay, you did not like Rose. So I kind of came out of that thinking like, oh man, like if Suzanne didn't connect with that, like, I don't know who will. Like, I thought it was cool though. Yeah. And I also, what else I like about this movie? There are 2 lightsabers. Like they've made everything more important to me. Like the prequels diluted everything so much. There's like Jedis everywhere. Everyone like blue lightsaber, purple lightsaber, like dual lightsaber. Oh,
Well, that's
this
what
like
they were supposed to be, though. That was when the Jedi Order was like,
yeah, I get it.
there.
I get it.
Yeah.
But I do like in this where it's like there's two of them. One of them's really unstable, and the other one just got broken in half. And you know, I like that it's these two kids who don't know anything. You know, like when Luke started in A New Hope, he knew nothing about any of this shit, and Obi-Wan had to like, you know, take him under his wing and like teach him like general principles. And he was, you know, he was a Poe Dameron type where he just wanted to go fight the empire, and you know, and you know, he had to be calmed down and like brought into it. And that is what I thought they were going to do with this, right? Like that's what I think everyone expected, was that Mark Hamill was going to come in and play Luke again, and Luke was going to be the Obi-Wan to Rey, and he was going to settle her down and realize that like she is the last one, and once he's done with her, she can go on and bring back, you know, like the passing of the torch. We all kind of expected that, but what we got was something very different. And I think that a lot of like, I talked to our friend Chris Ortiz, or we were texting about this on Facebook, and he, you know, his point of view was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this movie. Like there were these risks that were taken, and I don't know how I'm going to feel about them in time. Like the treatment of Luke that you said isn't the obvious path for this movie, right? Like the way they describe,
it is. I disagree with you.
don't you think the obvious path is he's now Obi-Wan, he passes the torch to Rey, he gets struck down, makes her stronger? Like that's predictable path.
Has put out an edict that Disney is going to make their characters more important than the original ones. And instead of honoring a legacy, they're making the new characters better by discrediting the old ones. And people could go, how could you say that? Because watch the movie. I have evidence. Han Solo, bad father, bails on his wife, goes back to smuggling, gets killed by his son, punk. Luke Skywalker, bad Jedi, fails, attempts to kill a teenager.
He didn't attempt to kill him.
He thought about it for a second, but he still thought about it. Okay.
Yeah.
And ignited his lightsaber around a kid. For one, Leia should be cutting his head off for that. And as a Jedi master, I don't care how much darkness you that was horrible. And then after he realizes his mistake, you know, the Luke from Star Wars and all the canon that Disney destroyed would have never have done that. He might have done the igniting the lightsaber thing, but the reaction after that was to cowardly go to an island to die.
Yeah, that's the weird part about it. I agree with you.
It's bad. It's just bad. It's bad storytelling. And what they're trying to do is make Rey better by making Luke worse instead of, I don't know, actually writing something for Rey to make her better. I'm okay with Rey being better. No problem with it whatsoever. Just make it natural. Do some, what's her last name?
She doesn't know. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows because they don't know.
Right.
They like to say, it's this mystery. She's a no one. We couldn't decide on a backstory for her. That's what I see out of this. You can't tell me this is a good storytelling by going, we'll just you go ahead, make her a nobody, but then give her a last name. Why don't we know her last name?
Yeah, I don't know.
They were originally going to do something with her, and then J.J. Abrams left, and they decided against it because they're making this thing up as they go. Okay, I mean, if it looks like a duck, what did we talk about last podcast, John?
But I don't have a problem with that. That's like how every comic book I've ever loved has worked. Like Chris Claremont admits, never knows what's coming in the next comic book.
You don't know what's coming. Then give her a last name. Give her an identity. She doesn't. She's just Rey. Rey from a planet who can do everything awesome. I don't even know why she needs training, to be honest with you.
I mean, she doesn't do much in this movie.
Well, because they purposely dubbed. She beat a Sith Lord basically.
She didn't do
the first one.
Lord.
She cut his face and kicked his ass. And she force tricked a stormtrooper to let her go. I mean, this is advanced Jedi training. that she hasn't had.
Do a lot of that shit right away too, though. Like all he had to, yeah, I don't
know. No way. Luke got his ass kicked for 3 movies. Luke wasn't good till the end, and Luke didn't even. The only reason he beat his dad at the end is when he finally got pissed and let the anger take over, which is bad for a Jedi. You know, like the fully realized Jedi, we didn't really see until the prequels. I hate to say, you know, with Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan wasn't even a realized Jedi in the first movie. You know, and that like Yoda was a realized Jedi. So that being said, yeah, see, I guess I got a little nerd rage over that. That's where was that? I didn't think. I just Rey. I don't want to have a problem with Rey being a girl. I don't. When I heard that it was going to star, they were going to do a female Jedi. I'm like, cool. That sounds awesome. I mean, I hope it's like Buffy. I know that's the archetype, and it gets, but I wanted her to be kind of like Buffy. You could do a Buffy in Star Wars, not like, oh my God, Buffy, but just the way how she reacts to things and acts.
Yeah.
Daisy Ridley is not really a great actress. That's part of the problem.
Here's my question there, because I did think about that. Is she a better actress than the material is giving her, or is she not a great actress, so they're constraining the story around her? Like I can't figure out which way it's going right now.
Yeah,
because I really like the idea of the character, and I like the look of the character. I like where the character should be going. I like her as a foil to Kylo Ren. Like I like all of that stuff. But in application, that's my least favorite part of it. Like, and I think I'm overcompensating in this discussion because I liked the movie. Like I would go see it again. But if I were to sit down with my nephew who's turning 6, I think this year, if I were to sit down with Adam, I wouldn't show him this movie anytime soon. I would show him the original. You know, I would start at A New Hope. I would skip the prequels, and then eventually, you know, like if he liked it, I might get to this point. But you know, this isn't a top 3. You know, this isn't a top movie of mine. But I definitely liked it more than you, and I thought that like I overlooked a lot of things. Like I think that everything you're saying is true, right? Like if you gave me an ingredients list, I don't necessarily know what I would think about it, right? Like I wouldn't be like, hey, that's the meal I want to cook tonight. But when it was fed to me, I was kind of like, well, that was good. Like that was a good meal. I'm happy I did that. You know what I mean? So it's hard to argue with this stuff because like you're right, but like that's not really how it came across to me. Like you're describing accurate things, but like when I was in the moment, I was like enjoying those things that now we're describing as like that was terrible, you know? So it's hard because I want to like overcompensate the other way. But 1, I don't have a great argument against any of this stuff, and 2, like it's for some reason it didn't come across the same way as all that anyway.
Yeah. I mean, you know, honestly, that's the only thing I'm really pissed off about, because that's why I went to this movie to see Luke Skywalker kick some ass. That was the only reason I went and saw this movie. And really, I would have been okay with everything, would have been forgiven. I'm never going to forgive the death of Han Solo. That was dumb. That was just dumb. That's going to be a hard thing to get over for, you know, any Star Wars fan. I don't know how anybody Star Wars fan is okay with that, but that's cool. But I would have gotten over it.
Because we know that Harrison Ford didn't want to fucking do it in the first place. Yeah. And I was happy to get one more movie out of him. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I'm okay about it.
I was like, okay with him dying. It was the way he died.
Sure.
I mean, and it's whatever. Like they did it again. And I would have forgiven that if they would have given Luke the send-off. Now, at the very end,
I thought that was awesome when they pointed out
when he's looking at the 2 sons. That was cool. Yeah. But everything up to that was okay. So he died projecting himself. Then why not just effing go?
Because he knew he had to help them before he could go.
Why did he stay? He's got, you know, he couldn't get his X-wing out of there.
No, I think he didn't think
he had project himself across the universe, but he can't get his X-wing out of the water.
I don't know. Maybe it's not. There's no fuel in it.
Who knows?
It was a time constraint, right? And like he probably sensed something going on with his sister or Rey, and figured he had to do something. He couldn't sit by anymore.
What would have probably helped that immensely was a little scene showing him having a vision or something.
I agree. I agree. But But I did love like, and it, again, when I describe it, it sounds ridiculous, right? Like what I am saying right now, what I'm about to say, I understand sounds ridiculous, but I loved that he was like he was a force projection. He had closure with his sister. He goes out, like Kylo Ren goes berserk, which I love that they've set all these scenes up where Kylo Ren just irrationally explodes in elevator bays and in like, you know, in little rooms in the Star Destroyers. And then like he has one of those like blackout moments and he's just like, fire every fucking gun at that guy. I hate him. And like they do it. And then all of a sudden, like he just walks out of it. And that was such a badass moment. And then Kylo Ren goes down there in his ship and they have that standoff and every word they spoke was asinine. Like, but the visual of seeing that with like, I love seeing Luke with the stance because like Luke's fighting stance is awful. It always has been. He's always looked ridiculous with that lightsaber. Mark Hamill
until Rey held one. Sorry,
yeah,
with her hands all separated and everything.
But I thought it was really cool to see like that just ridiculous fighting stance. And you've got like Kylo Ren, little punk ass across from him, and I just thought like that whole thing played out in such a cool way. And then when I describe it, I know it sounds really stupid, like force projection, and they fired all the guns on one guy and let the whole rest of the people get away, and like it's all stupid, right? But like in the moment, I'm like watching it, and like the execution was like super entertaining and visually just super cool. So I know I feel like I am being a bit of an apologist about it, and maybe I am, but I like for me, I just want to like have fun at movies, right? Like that's my goal.
Me too. So I know movies
to
watch a hero I loved for 40 years get treated like crap by a company that bought him and promised us they wouldn't.
But that's not Disney, man. That's Rian Johnson. That's what I mean. Like, I don't think there's anything more Disney about
over this. They own it. They own it.
I get that they own it.
Rian Johnson just said yes to whatever Kathleen Kennedy told him to do.
I don't think so, man.
I can't even fully blame him. There's a writer's room. Like they have a writer's room for this.
No, it said written and directed by Rian Johnson in the credits.
There's a writer's room from Kathleen Kennedy, and what they do is they feed him stuff and then he writes it. Like they give him the plot basically, and he writes the story.
I don't know, man.
Like, yeah, there's a writer's room for sure. That's
to me, there's like this feels less Disney than the prequels. So I don't know what's like. I don't see a Disney brand on this thing. I just see a Star Wars brand. Always been
crazy, son.
It had way less money and it was made in the 70s, so it looked different. But that's what these movies have always been. It's like camp. And
Rose was Disney. Rose was 100% Disney. Now I didn't mind her that much, but she was 100% Disney. And those little horse rabbits that I like to call horseradishes, that's where horseradishes come from. Horseradish sauce.
The porg, the little crystal foxes.
You know what? The porgs did not bother me as much as the horsey cruelty thing did. And like, listen, I love animals. I own animals. They taste great, but
I think it's hard to distinguish between like Disney moral values placed on something or just Hollywood elitist moral values.
George Lucas,
I just
would never put modern politics, and it was even his like boring.
Are you kidding? Those prequels were all stacked with it. The like Senate breaking down on the
that's World War II stuff. That's all that's general politics, not like modern PETA. Like he would never do that. It was terrible. And don't use the prequels as a good example. That's why it sucked. But that's original trilogy, George would not have done that ever.
But new trilogy, George, what I'm saying is that bad is bad. Whether it's Disney or George Lucas, Rian Johnson, or Steven Spielberg or whatever. This isn't like what's bad about this isn't the fact that it's got a Disney sheen. It's just got a elitist Hollywood messaging sheen.
Yes. I wouldn't call it. Now Disney can own the badness of it. It's not because it's a Disney-fied movie. There wasn't a bunch of princesses. Well,
right. That's what I'm
flying around in space. Oh, wait, there was.
There's one. There's always been one though.
Yeah. So that was a Disney moment. You can't deny that. But no, this was bad because of the reasons I gave earlier with WB, with Batman and Robin. There's just too many fingers in the pie, chefs in the kitchen, whatever you want to call it on this one. Too much marketing research. It's too big to be good. Maybe we need to have like blockbusters crash again like they did at the late 80s and we got like all those really good independent movies in the 90s. Maybe that needs to happen again. Movies getting smaller.
I'd rather.
Well, I think I think movies. There's always going to be movies, and there's always going to be independent stuff, and it's easier to get it out there than ever now. Like you don't need to have a distributor; you could just have a YouTube channel and make a movie. I think we'll get some pretty cool stuff out of that. As far as Star Wars, they can still write the shit, man. They can. The thing is, like, they're pissing off the fans. Like, what they're trying to do is they're trying to bring in new fans, which is you can never fault anybody for doing that. You can never fault
the original trio. Would you have been happier had they not brought the original trio back? Because it seems like you have like a lot of problems with the treatment of Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, and I have a problem with the treatment of how they've dealt with the death of Carrie Fisher and inserted weirdness into these movies, trying to work around a tragedy instead of just starting over with like figuring out ways to, you know what I mean? Like I feel like they tried to cram Carrie Fisher CGI in to stay on course instead of like say, okay, this horrible thing happened. Now we've got to figure something else out. You know?
What's up, Cy? I'm saying hi to Cy.
Yeah.
And hey, everybody in the chat, we're going to read your chat in just a second, guys. Yeah. So we're not ignoring you.
But would you be happier that they just like pass the
torch? At this point, yes.
On with the
now that I've seen it, I would have been happier if they just started fresh without them and just told a little story like, hey, they went off and lived happily ever after. And like just did something completely new.
Chewie in and leave the original trio out.
I would have left Chewie. I would have left everybody out and just started anew. What they could have done is what Star Trek did with the Star Trek, the motion picture, and Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. They were all older. Now they were not as old as these guys were, but they could have done something. Like if you wanted to write Han and Leia out of the story, like give them a little time in the first movie, make Han do something adventurous, and then have them go away. Just like go away and then follow Luke. Because for one, Mark Hamill was down. He was like, I want to do this, and I'll be a badass. And he was a grumpy guy on an island. And that's not how Luke Skywalker, supposedly the greatest Jedi of all time, gets.
I think they struggle with the idea. I think they struggle with the idea that half the people, including I think Mark Hamill at one point, thought that Luke should have gone to the dark side at a certain point. And I think that they've struggled with writing that line of dark Luke and light Luke, and that's why we got this muddled mess of Luke Skywalker in this movie. Because I'm like okay with how this one played out in comparison to you. I did have a bit of an issue with like Joker Mark Hamill in Luke's clothes over Kylo Ren as a kid, right? Like that was not a scene I really loved in the movie. I thought it was interesting to see like Luke's point of view and then Kylo's point of view, and then what actually happened was somewhere in the middle, right? I liked that they kind of did that in the movie. I just thought maybe it could have been treated a little bit better.
When all is said and done, the Skywalker saga ends with the legacy of Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
This was all, we watched all the original trilogy, all the prequels to get Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
And I know, no, wait, there's Rey, but this is a Skywalker story, and it was supposed to continue the Skywalker story. There's now no more Skywalkers. And it was,
and that's the kind of risk I think people are talking about, right?
I don't think that a risk.
I think that's a risk.
Storytelling.
No, I think it's a risk. I think it's a risk to say like this is the ending of the Skywalker.
Oh, you're right. It's a huge risk, and it's going to hurt them in the long run because people like there's still people like me who are a little older now. I don't buy Star Wars stuff anymore, but there's a lot of guys who do. Who would have for even if they're like my age, like in their late 40s, early 50s, they would have bought stuff for like 10, 20. You would have had a decade more of crazy fanboys still buying stuff and the new fans still buying stuff. And what you've done is alienated all those guys. So now for the next decade, they aren't buying those high-end collectibles. Those aren't going to sell anymore. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Gone. I'm sure like the value of Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, wait till that Han Solo movie comes out. That will be a good test to see where things are. I think there will be there's always the law of diminishing returns, but I think things will go down. Of course, I think this movie will make a gazillion dollars. And I think I'm probably in the minority in the what I think.
No. I think it's a 50-50, man. Like,
You
this
think
is
so?
actually a really interesting movie because people are coming out of this with varying it's not even just a love it or hate it. It's like a love it, like it, sort of hate it, really hate it spectrum. And it's like even across the board from what I've seen. Like, I've seen a lot of people. I've seen less people that have come out of it being like, holy shit, that I personally know. Although I've seen a lot of tweets of like, hey, it's the best since Jedi, since Empire, which again, I think it's asinine. But you know, I think that there have been a lot of people who have said like, this is a good Star Wars movie, and a lot of people who have said, what the fuck did I just watch? And you know, I think that the eventual assessment of this movie will be something in between. Like, what do you think, how do you feel about this compared to, you didn't like Force Awakens either. Like, how do you feel this compares to Force Awakens? Is this progressing somewhat, or is this a step backwards?
I think this it's hard to say. I'd say it's the same. I think certain characters progress more. Like Kylo Ren was clearly better in this movie than he was in the last. Rey was a little better than she was in the last. Finn was a little better. Poe was the same. Poe's a nothing. I mean, he's nothing. He's like, what he sat on a ship, BB-8's kind of cute. Snoke was like that was the one thing I was actually interested in. I'm like, I'm really interested in the Snoke thing. I want to see how this pans out. Oh, he's a big fat nobody.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about him, and now we won't. Thanks.
Yeah, Snoke was the waste, the biggest waste of a character in a long time. I mean, when we did our off-season, our in-between podcasts, and we were speculating about the new trajectory of Star Wars, the who is Snoke and the who is Rey were the biggest speculation points. Now, I kind of think it's cool what they did with Rey, right? Like, I like that there's all this speculation, and then they're just like, she's nothing, she's a nobody. She sprang out of, humble roots. And I like that. I thought that was a really cool thing to do. Yes, I thought it was cool. Because every time we speculate about anything in the nerd universe, there is some sort of something there. And so like somebody figures it out or whatever. And in this one, it was just like, you got like everyone was talking, and she's the same character. She didn't need to be a Skywalker. She didn't need to be she's just gotta be a badass. Like, that's her thing.
I still think they left the door wide open for one. Kylo could have been lying.
True. Okay, so I thought about that too.
Know her last name. Right? With J.J. Abrams finishing it, I doubt it'll turn out to anything. Let's get to the chat. Let's get to the chat a little bit. And we've got a few there. We got poor SF Fanboy hasn't seen it. We've spoiled the hell out of it.
Yeah, but he didn't seem to mind.
What was the name of that ship that they okay, can we talk about the slow ships?
The Dreadnought?
Yeah. What the F with the slow ships, and what the thing with the crawling fingers on the ground and that was dumb. That was dumb. You got the big gun that was made from the Death Star technology that was gonna battering ram gun that had like little fingers. Like, slowly crawl. I mean, it turned into a Python movie.
What that was there was it was like a cannon, like a huge, like,
it was a huge cannon.
And then there were these two tanks that were towing it, like with these lines. And then because it's so powerful, it would get blown backwards. So it had these like big mechanical roots that sunk down into the salt.
So they couldn't have dropped it off a little closer to the door, maybe.
Well, I think
they were afraid of the junky land speeders that they had.
I think that they did. They were just like, this is good enough. Like, let's not risk getting, let's just do it as fast as we can, I think was the idea at that point. I thought that was cool. What I thought was they were going to take the land speeders, get out there as fast as they could, and blast the towing cables to detach it from the tanks so that it couldn't get any closer. Like, that's what I thought the plan should have been in that moment.
So Liam Jones says, even Mark Hamill disagrees what they did with Luke. That just tells you everything. Agreed, I said. Crossover idea. This is from SF Fanboy. Mary Sue's Rey from Star Wars and Michael Burnham from STD. I was going to bring that up. How just not exactly that, but how fandom has been split. I think Star Wars has pulled an STD. I kind of do. This has been a theme this year.
Yeah,
this has been a theme this year. Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars. These are old fandoms that have been split in half for decisions you might agree or disagree with, but you can't disagree that the fandoms are split in half. And I think it actually, what you're saying, I kind of thought I was in the minority. I was like, when I came out, I'm like, dude, because I wanted to like the movies. I didn't go into this movie like wanting to hate it. I'm not one of those people. I could talk crap about a movie and then go see it, and then like I'll remember Braveheart was a movie I thought would be terrible, and I walked out of it loving it. I mean, it's Speed. I remember when Speed came out, I'm like, that looks like the dumbest motherfucking movie. And I watched it, I'm like, that was a great movie. I like bad movies. Okay. Con Air, I will say it over and over again, is one of my favorite all-time movies. It's terrible.
Yeah. What else? Armageddon is amazing.
I love Armageddon. It's garbage, but I love it.
It's terrible. It's the worst, but I'll watch it. I'll watch it.
Okay, you're true. If you're not with me, you're against me. Okay, I stand corrected. From Ray, Death Ray. You're right. Lucas did drop that in at the end.
Yeah.
So I'll put the caveat on the original trilogy, but yeah, he actually did put that crap all over the prequels. I was wrong.
Here's the thing, though. This is not a new thing. Like Hollywood soapboxes. I mean, it's been around since the dawn of Hollywood. Like, this isn't a thing.
No. Okay, Hollywood soapbox is a thing this year. We can argue that on a different podcast, but it is. They've always been there, but it's been stupid this year. That's all.
Yeah,
it's been that's all.
And as far as like the like, I don't know. I think Star Wars
problem with
great about having.
I don't if it's done well.
Right.
I don't.
I hear you.
When I cringe, I don't mean to. I'm like, oh, I'm going to cringe now. No. If something happens and I cringe, I will, and I cringed when she was like going on the animal rights thing. And I, it's not like I'm not against animal rights. I just cringed.
She was just saying like, this is a beautiful city built on the oppression of others. And
welcome to life, kiddo. That's the world.
She was making that sort of a judgment. I think that the whole idea is that this rebellion is supposed to, like, the whole idea of the rebellion is rebelling against that exact idea.
Okay, so the theme of this movie, they kept on beating us over the head with, get rid of the past. The past is dead, and everything's gray, and everything's a balance. There is no more good and bad. Well, you just took away everything that was good from Star Wars. Star Wars was a simple story. Okay, it was good versus evil, and now we're going to give it layers and turn it into Game of Thrones, and which I guess you could do, but you got to do that kind of slowly. And the thing is, the juxtaposition of the characters are so simplified on purpose, because that's the way it was in Star Wars. The thing is, it is not 1977, it's not 1983, it is 2017. You can't just put out a Poe Dameron saying he's an awesome pilot. Go, you love him, you're going to buy his action figure, and he does some cool stuff with the X-Wing. Now that stuff actually would have worked in 1977. It's not going to work now. So they can't have it both ways. And I think you even mentioned earlier that they are caught between us now that they're free of, I hate to say that, of Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill to a certain extent and Harrison Ford. They might be able to branch out and do some different stuff, as long as it's not with Rian Johnson.
So I love this chat. It's showing like all sides too. I think Sai is actually probably the closest, to my opinion. You think he said like an 8 out of 10. I'd probably say like a 7.5 out of 10 for this movie. And his latest comment was, people must be allowed to make mistakes in order to grow. And I think this was a moment in crisis for Poe to realize his ascension to leadership. What I would say to that is I agree with it. But like Gary's saying, it was a very easy, like it was a very sloppy way to do it. Like there should be some nuance to that realization, rather than just like, here's Poe making really brash, stupid decisions that end poorly, and here's everything he thinks being proved wrong, and then now he's realized that and he's ready to lead the rebellion, right? Like I think that
all in 5 minutes. And Lucas is guilty of that too, believe me.
It's the problem with movies, right? Is they're just too short compared to like a TV series. Like I would have wanted to see that over a whole season or two rather than like, yeah.
That is the problem. And the thing is, we also look too deeply into Star Wars. Star Wars is not that deep. Star Wars is the Beatles in so many ways. You know, we dissect it. God, think about all those poor channels out there who did all those videos about Snoke, how they feel now. At least they got views out of it, I guess. But it's good to see Size from Mr. Robot. He's really good. He's
yeah, and Mark from our STD, our Star Trek Discovery podcast. Sorry, Mark. Mark does not have an STD. Neither do we, but we talk about it. He said, "I liked Last Jedi as I like STD." I wouldn't put out that you like STDs too much out there, Mark, but yeah,
hey,
no, I think that
everybody's got their thing, man.
I know, I guess. These aren't inherently bad, right? Like that's, I think, the main point is like these aren't like inherently bad things. They're just like not, they have all these flaws that either you're going to be okay with or you're not. And some people are cool with some of them or all of them, and some won't be. But there's an entertaining factor to almost like to pretty much everything we talk about on this channel. Like we wouldn't be sticking with it if there wasn't some sort of an entertainment level to it, you know? So with this movie, I think it's the same. I think that it's a flawed, fun Star Wars movie. It does still feel like Star Wars, even though there were some decisions that were interesting. Can we talk about Kylo Ren? Because you, Gary, it seemed like the one thing you were the highest on was that they kind of fixed some of the problems with Kylo Ren.
Kind of. I'll lead it with this. Does anybody out there, and there's so much more chat we got to get doing, we will. Does anybody out there doubt at all that it's going to be Kylo and Rey fighting? Rey's going to turn Kylo good, and then Kylo will probably like die or something, or maybe she turns him. But she's going to turn him. That there's no way that's not how this ends. And it's not like we didn't think Luke was going to defeat Darth Vader either. But we were always like, how the hell is he going to defeat Darth Vader? I mean, Darth Vader and the Emperor, they're freaking powerful. Kylo was better in this movie, but he's still not this big bad villain. So who's the big bad now? Is it just Kylo? Do we not have a big bad? Is this just going to be a gray Star Wars Episode 9, the gray, where everybody just shakes hands at the end and everybody's cool and their lightsabers turn like a mundane color? It's wide open. They can't copy any more movies.
Probably end in a way where like Rey has realized that Kylo is dark, and now the light will defeat the dark. I think that's actually where they're going. Is they're taking away the idea that that Darth Vader was this like there was still light in him and he could be turned. I think this movie was supposed to set Kylo on the opposite path where he's never going to be turned, and Rey just has to fucking beat him. I'm
bummed they took away the one thing I liked about Force Awakens and I liked about Kylo was his obsession with Darth Vader. And when they showed the Darth Vader melted mask and he was talking to it and say, "Show me again, grandfather." I wish there was something to that. They obviously ignored it. That would have been cool if like somehow Anakin and the Darth Vader persona split. I know that sounds super fanboy, and like somehow the dark side of Anakin like contacted, got through to Kylo, and there's like, I don't know, that would have been more interesting than like just nothing. Kylo was better in this. He clearly bulked up. Adam Driver did a good job acting in this. I think he did the best job acting in this movie. The conflict when he like let off the button to not kill his mom. The betrayal of Snoke, even though he's a nothing character, that stuff was cool. That stuff was actually cool. The thing I laughed the most at, the funniest scene was when Snoke, when they went to go when Rey went to grab the lightsaber and it swung back around and hit her in the back of the head.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
I laughed out loud in that scene. Yep. And some of that, I wanted more of that. Like, were those the Knights of Ren in there? I know there's a name for that guard. I forgot it, but they were cool looking. That fight was okay. It wasn't great. I just wish there was a little more to Snoke before. I mean, I think killing him was a good idea. but I wish they would have given us like, oh,
His
I'm from
backstory.
here, and this
Yeah.
is how I know the dark side, and like you know, I was like, I stalked Palpatine for 20 years, and like, or it was Palpatine's like ex-boyfriend or something. I don't know.
Where I was
That would have
going
been, you know.
with the reveals, like the Rey reveal that she doesn't have a backstory, essentially, I was cool with. The way they did it with Snoke, though, where they didn't even address it and then they killed him, even though we've been speculating about this for like 3 years now, that pissed me off. I was like, well, then why did you even make this guy a thing? Why couldn't you just make like Supreme Leader in like a helmet somewhere that we didn't even know is like just random guy barking orders at Kylo? Like, that's essentially what this guy was, but you made him look really cool and gave him this like mysteriousness of, you know, this mystique about him, and like he's a giant floating beastly head. Like, I just felt like they built up this idea of Snoke and then just like killed him without telling us anything of how he got there. It was weird.
And this is the this is where you miss a George. I mean, George, Kathleen Kennedy. I blame her for all of this, because she has been a great producer for many years. Okay, she's been a part of all those Lucas and Spielberg movies. She's been there, but she's a great producer. I don't think she's great at creative stuff. I think she's great at like getting shit done, getting the money in, which is a person you need. But I think they need a strong creative force to come in, and it's not Rian Johnson, it's not J.J. Abrams, to come in and steer this shit.
She gave it to Jon Favreau. That's who they should give it to.
Yeah, somebody. I mean, like, you know, the thing is, none of those people are going to want to come in because they got to answer to Disney, and Disney's way more involved in Star Wars than they are in Marvel right now. That's going to change someday, but that's what they need to right this ship. I mean, there's certain fans who are not going to come back from this. I mean, like I said, I was gone for a long time, so I just see these as a normal fan. I go in and I watch them, and you know, like this one, it's just because this was the final nail in the coffin for me, because the way they treated Luke. And like I said earlier in the podcast, if they would have treated Luke better, I'd have probably thought this was a great movie. But they didn't. And yeah, plot holes aside, there's tons of plot holes. There's tons of little stuff that's annoying, but the thing I can get over those. I can't get over the Luke thing. It's just, oh man, come on. You had your chance. I'm okay with him dying at the end. But they did it to us again with Han Solo. I just feel, as a Star Wars fan, I feel burned. I feel a little burned. And you know, I've spent a lot of money, but that was my choice. You know, and we could talk about fan entitlement.
Go for it.
I mean, like, I have a little entitlement. I'll admit that. But I mean, I've spent, not recently, but over my lifetime, thousands of dollars on this thing. I spent hundreds of hours. And, you know, they like Kathleen Kennedy said, she owes the male portion of the Star Wars audience nothing. Those were her words. Poorly spoken words. Liam Johnson, we gotta get caught up in the comments here. Liam Johnson, have you read this one? Okay. Liam Jones says, why not have Leia crash into the ship at the end instead of the other leader? That would have been more suitable for her passing in real life. I agree. I think they really made the mistake of like not wanting to kill her off. I think they thought it would be tasteless, and it's understandable. But I think you should have just asked her daughter. Just ask, hey, is it cool if we do this? And if she said yeah, then do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the next of kin. If she's fine with it, she's the one in charge. I mean,
what are they going to do? G her for like the next 12 Star Wars movies? Like, they're afraid to ever kill her off. It's going to just keep going.
Knowing Carrie Fisher, I mean, I've read Postcards from the Edge. I am a grateful recovering addict, and she was in and out of the program. Mm-hmm. She wouldn't have given a crap. I guarantee you that. Okay, one of her most prized possessions was like a giant pill. So a replica of like a Vicodin or whatever it was, or a Xanax. That was one of her most prized possessions. Okay. The woman died of a cocaine overdose. Okay, ask yourself this. Here's a controversial one, John. If she wasn't asked to go back and do Star Wars, would she be alive today?
Maybe.
I think she would. I think she felt the pressure of doing this stuff, and it like made her go off the wagon a little bit. And, I'm totally speculating on that, but some of the most common reasons for relapse are success, not failures. Mm-hmm. Success. Death Ray. I love that name. Lucas wrote that quote during the Bush administration. He was talking about his quote earlier. You are correct, sir. Are you seeing any standout?
Yeah, let's talk about this. So, Sai basically said, "You 50% of the audience approval rating. You're definitely not in the minority, Gary." Jerry Strobel said the rumor is Darth Vader is supposed to be in the Han Solo movie just for nostalgia. I don't know. It sounds like a rumor to me. Here's the thing about
I think he will be.
I mean, I'm sure he will be, but not for nostalgia. It's because people liked it in Rogue One. You know what I mean?
I liked Rogue One.
Yeah,
I liked it. I mean, it's now if you take away that Darth Vader scene at the end, I still probably would have liked it. I liked it. I thought it was a pretty good movie.
I think that's why they kind of like the idea of this Rogue One like heist movie is I think what led us to the Rose Finn storyline.
Oh, that's interesting. I would
I
agree
was
with
having
that.
flashbacks to that. I think that maybe they were trying to bring a little piece of that in there. So Sai the Olympian, I'm not too familiar with the Force, so I can't comment on how they used it here. These movies feel like the story is being written as they go along. Last Jedi is the Skywalker swan song. I do, and it wasn't a very great swan song for the Skywalkers. It was more of a setup for whatever they're doing next, which is also the I just want to say too, like I enjoyed the movie. So for me, I'm just kind of, I guess, nitpicking here, but like I did feel that just like the last one, I was more excited for what was going to come next. Like I felt like it was good setup for, and they need to deliver a complete package. Like they need to get me to a point where I'm not thinking about like, oh, I like that they set the trajectory in this way. Like they just keep aiming instead of like firing. And I feel like if they don't fire it on the next movie, I'm probably going to get a little bit more frustrated. Maybe I've already gone too long, but at least like I've been entertained up until this point. But
that's cool.
I need that. I need to stop saying I like how they set this up for Rey and Finn and Poe to do the next thing.
You're wanting something to be established. You want some establishment because we felt that, you know, at the beginning of Jedi, we felt that, okay, Luke's a Jedi, you know, I mean, like Jedi's not a perfect movie. There's a great there's a great chapter in the novelization in the beginning of just a guy in a tent or in a hut putting together a lightsaber. And the minute that happens, that's when Luke becomes a Jedi. Because that's part of your Jedi training is you have to build your own lightsaber. Always pissed that wasn't in the movie because I remember reading. I always read the novelizations always came out a little before the movie did, and I burned through them. Never worried about spoilers, and that was like the biggest disappointment. Like, why wouldn't you? That scene is just great. And if you like, those scenes are in the radio dramas. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there and gals listen to the radio dramas, which are excellent. Could not recommend them high enough. And that's I talked about it a podcast ago. Like if you want to, because Disney's definitely going to remake the original trilogy. Do not doubt me on that at all. My pitch is, since you're going to do it anyway, make it a TV series, draw it out longer, you know, and make something completely different, like based around the, you know, if you want to go Game of Thrones and give it your little details and find out like how Palpatine paid for all the Death Star and stuff like that, go TV show. You're going to own your own
TV show
network.
In the prequel universe, you know, in the prequel era, like a Game of Thrones drama.
No, I mean, like do the original trilogy, like read the original trilogy as a TV show. I don't want any more prequels. I'm done. I'm prequeled out. I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, like go 1,000 years in the future. Like that would be fine. You know, or you know, do a time jump after this. I'd be totally okay with like if the next movie is like 10 years later.
Yeah.
And that's a way to get rid of Leia. It's 10 years later. She died of old age, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's not a bad idea. I thought they'd do that like at the beginning of this movie. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. And you could like say like, hey, now it's 10 years later, Kylo Ren has amassed more power. Rey is, has trained for a while, or hasn't trained, and she's been demoralized by everything, and Finn's trying to keep her hope alive, and blah blah blah. Like I could totally see that. I liked the story of like the stormtrooper who's now like the biggest, the most all in on the rebellion. What is the rebellion rebelling against right now?
I think they're just surviving. What rebellion? It's like 6 people. They're rebelling against the First Order, which I'm assuming, because they haven't really shown anything, has taken control, although their leader is dead. And their biggest space station died, but they did wipe out the 6 planets of the Republic. So I guess the Republic is gone.
Galaxy has gone on its own, and each little area is governing itself, and these two forces are just like chasing each other around in space. Like
so the galaxy is truly free for the first time.
Free, and like the other forces are just like bugs in space, like just shooting at each other and running away. Like it's like
nobody knows about it. That'd be hilarious.
Oh it's like God. Laser tag, and that's all that's going on right now.
We got these 2 idiots fighting each other. We're just selling them ships, and we're all cool. Everybody's cool, and they're just wiping each other out.
They won't come to us. Just keep them out there.
Small. Didn't this movie feel like totally small? I didn't feel like it was encompassing a galaxy or anything. It just felt really tiny.
Even though they went to some pretty cool planets, I really loved the salt planet with the red.
Yeah, it didn't look like Empire at all.
So cool.
It didn't look like
all the red floating all over it.
Salt.
Yeah,
we're different. Although we dug trenches and had walkers, but it's salt, so it's not the same. You silly fanboy. Liam Jones, Darth Vader scene was the best scene to come out of the Disney since Disney bought Lucasfilm. Agreed, Liam. Is BB-8? If BB-8 isn't in Walker next to Jon, I'm gonna be tilted. Hey, you should put BB-8 in that little walker, John. Why didn't you put one in there? Do you not own a little BB-8 figure?
To my friend's son. I'll have to go steal it back from him.
Mark. Okay. I don't know if I can. I'm just gonna say Mark. If they remake it as a TV show, please get some good writers first. Yes, Mark. I'd like them to still get some good writers just for the movies. They aren't rebelling anymore. Just a small resistance movement says, Langley, what's up, man? Our good friend Langley.
Yeah, he never likes what we have to say, but he still listens to us. It's weird.
He does. No, he's awesome. What are you talking about?
I know, I do. I love him.
I think I don't know. He's disagreed, but he's always been very respectful. And that's cool. I love that. And you know what? He's corrected us on a couple things when we've been dead freaking wrong too. So
there's a reason not to agree with us. He's usually the one that's right.
I know. He's the reasonable voice in the room.
Yeah.
I never said I was reasonable. I never said that. So John,
closing statements.
Well, God, I still could go on for another hour. I don't want to end it just yet. I'm just getting warmed up. Let's talk. Okay, I'll talk about the good.
Yeah,
I'll talk about. So Kylo was better. I actually thought he was better. I thought Adam Driver really sold it. I thought he put some effort into this, and I gained a lot of respect for him after this movie. Laura Dern's character was all right. My favorite scene was the hyperspace scene through the ship. That was clearly the best scene. That was badass. I was like, ooh, that was good. I need more of that.
When the sound cut out and it was just like the theater was like
dead quiet.
Yeah, it was like, what? Like that was cool. That was dope.
The very end with Luke looking at the twin suns. See, the thing is, and Mundane Matt said this. He's another YouTuber I was watching. For him not to like the movie was shocking. Was utterly shocking because he likes everything. And he's a good YouTuber. But he made a great point, and I do not want to steal it. And I want to give him full credit. And I'm sure other people have said this. When Luke dies, I should have been in tears. Yeah. I should have been in unconsolable tears, or doing my man cry, like hiding it, especially because I was alone in the main theater. I'd be all, pretending I was like, my eye going, I'm not crying right now. There's something in my eye. That should have been, and I wasn't. I was like, that's really cool, and it was like the music was beautiful at the end, but it didn't. And the same thing should have happened to Han. Now, I know it's a lot to expect, but they should have at least tried to do that. The Luke scene was just rushed. He's not gone. Okay, he's gonna come back, and apparently Force Ghosts can do stuff now. So he's ascended. So he didn't really die. He's just at a different, plane of living. And the whole Yoda thing coming back. We didn't talk about that. What do you think of that scene?
I thought it was great. So it felt, I don't know. I thought it was really, really, I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it coming. And I thought that it was really cool. Like, my initial reaction in the moment was like, oh, this makes me so happy to not have that stupid cartoon Yoda like flipping around with lightsabers. Like, it felt just really, there was a nostalgia for me there in that scene. I thought it got a little biblical with like the burning bush and all that shit. But I felt like
I didn't even think about that.
yeah, I was like, oh, this is so.
It didn't even cross my mind, man.
Yeah. So I like that he came back to kind of set Luke straight. Like Luke had been closing himself off to the Force, we find, and so Yoda shows up when he's finally opened himself up, and he's basically like, dude. Young Sky, he calls him Young Skywalker. Like, you got some shit to learn still, man. Like, I liked that. I liked that the one person who could come back in to criticize him did, and it played well for me. I thought that some of the lines were a little weird. They tried to overly Yoda-ize the dialogue with Yoda in it, but I did like the classic look of Yoda, and like it brought me back to those Dagobah scenes. It wasn't as good as those, but it definitely like, that was the moment actually where I felt the old Luke come through a little bit. So I guess maybe that's why I liked it as well.
I like that scene a little bit. I liked that they used a puppet. I liked how they talked to it, because the one thing they didn't talk about, and I love that they brought it up, was failure, how you learn from failure.
Yes.
And that's something Luke should have known, though.
Yes.
Now, I'll ask the question, and I'll ask this to the audience, too. Excuse me. Shouldn't it have been Obi-Wan? Now, I know, like, Alec Guinness is dead, so what you do is you do an aged-up Ewan McGregor. Would that have been silly? And I'm asking that question because I don't know the answer.
I wouldn't have loved the Ewan McGregor because I want to separate.
They just have no connection.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
I don't know. I can see what you're saying, and yeah, it probably should have been Obi-Wan, but I think the bond, like Obi-Wan was there to set Luke on the path, but Yoda was the one who really shaped his ideas about the dark side and the Force, so I liked it.
So about time somebody asked where my beard went. It's gone for professional reasons, but it will be back in about a month or two.
Wow, that's all it takes to grow that thing, is a month or two? That's crazy.
Well, I mean, like what? The level it was before, that was like a year, but I was okay. All right, I'll tell you the story. What the hell? It's the mirror universe, Gary. Right? The real Gary likes Star Wars. I was trimming it to do. Oh, I gotta be careful what I say. I was gonna go somewhere where I had to make an impression. So, and it turns out I didn't need to do that. By the way, I got to this place and there's a dude with a big old freaking beard. I'm like, God dang it. But I wanted to make an impression, and I was trimming my mustache, and I trimmed it to hack the thing off. It's the most unfortunate thing. So my wife is very happy.
I think you look good. I think like Constantine showing up on Legends of Tomorrow. Constantine has showed up on our podcast. It's good stuff.
All I need to be is puffing a stogie, and Constantine's my favorite character, but it's not because he has spiky blonde hair.
Not because you guys look the same. Yeah,
easy Halloween costume for me.
Yes. No, the Yoda scene was definitely like an unexpected.
Thanks, Langley.
Yeah. What else? So the best stuff for you is the Kylo Ren stuff and the
Yoda moment. The Snoke scene, just the fight with the even though like
theater.
And nobody cheered, but nobody ever cheers in San Francisco. That's like San Francisco is way too stuffy. They want to go see important movies and cry, and I like to kick ass.
Yeah.
Goddamn, that's all I wanted out of Luke, man. I wanted him to kick ass. I didn't want him to win the fight. I'd have been okay with Kylo winning the fight, because we need to make him a little more badass. And I thought that's what we were going to get. And he just dodged and did a Neo thing.
I also feel like they that whole scene harkened to like his entrance at the beginning of Jedi, where he's all in black and he goes in and he doesn't really do that much badass stuff in Yoda's palace, but like enough. And I don't know, he's always been like that calm presence that just stands there in an imposing way. Like that's how they've always kind of had like Jedi Luke operating. So to me, it had that effect. It wasn't, but.
Liam Jones says the throne room scene was great. I love that scene, and I really enjoyed it. And 8 I can't read Amperellis. Andy Serkis, I will get that right. 8. It's probably
Serkis.
Yeah. Andy Serkis killed it. Snoke was way more engaged in this one. Totally, Andy Serkis kills anything he does. That guy is awesome. I love even when he's in a bad movie, he makes it better. He is so great. I can't wait to see him as Ulysses S. Claw in Black Panther. I'm sure he's gonna kill it in that. That guy is like, and he got yoked too. R.I.P. Beard, by the way. Oh, I love that a podcast brought up earlier that throne room was Snoke's rape room.
Oh God. Oh Jesus Christ.
Oh my God. I know it's terrible. Sorry, but he had all the little gadgets in there stuff.
Disney
I heard that. I was like, oh Christ. And that's the first thing I thought S&M room. That's where I was going with that one. But
with all the red hooded.
Yeah, with just all the gadgets and things. A Bulk Panther. There you go. You're funny, Langley. Yeah. Everybody, Michael B. Jordan looks huge for that movie. That guy got yoked.
But probe droids.
But probe droids, right? there was some kinky stuff in that throne room. He had his robe on, He looked very relaxed. Although I still think he was Palpatine's ex-boyfriend.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The evil BB-8, that's new to this movie, right?
Yes.
I loved it. I love the little like Empire BB-8 droid. They were on point with their toy game. Like I think there's going to be a lot of stuffed porgs around for little kids this Christmas, and lots of like BB-8 versus evil BB-8 stuff going on. Like the toy game was definitely on point, as it always has been with Star Wars.
I think there's a bunch of Ewoks and Jar Jar who are jumping for joy that the porgs were invented.
Yeah.
The porgs? Is it the porgs? I just want to say pogs. Remember pogs?
I do remember pogs.
Yeah. Okay, 8 Ampeliros. Okay, 8 Ampeliros. Got it.
Poliros.
Give me another podcast and I'll have that down.
Yes.
Hey, I'm getting older. I don't internet very well. I have to ask my son for stuff now. It's really embarrassing. I'm trying to think of some other good scenes that I liked. I thought Carrie Fisher was better in this one, but let's address the elephant in the room.
Sure.
She wasn't. Rest in peace, Carrie. We love you, but your acting wasn't on point. Mark Hamill's acting wasn't really on point, because he's been doing cartoon acting for so long, his voice sounds funny now, doesn't it?
Mark Hamill,
yeah. Harrison Ford was Harrison Ford. I think what you addressed earlier was a big problem. Like, we're making this big budget movie and we're bringing in 2 people who haven't acted in anything in a long freaking time, like as stars.
Yeah.
That's a problem. You can't just like throw people in and, at least like when they brought Star Trek back, like Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner have been working, they did TV series. So they've been working, honing their skills. So I think there's a lot and we don't know about like what their personal lives had turned into. And like they're investing a ton of money.
Yeah. Yes.
And one of the actors died, from drugs. So
It's tough. It was tough. It was the hardest thing was just to have like a bunch of. I know. I think BB-8 has been Mary Sue in this too.
Such a Mary Sue droid.
I do feel like they had like too many send-offs for Carrie Fisher. Like I thought that the Rogue One send-off was like perfect. And then in this movie it was like there was one with Laura Dern, there was one with Finn, there was one with Poe, there was one with Mark Hamill. Like they sent her off and then at the end she's still there, right?
Yeah.
So we're going into episode 9? And we're gonna still have that problem hanging over our head.
Well, they said they're gonna write her out. And it's good, and everybody's like, I'm sure for 2 years we're gonna get videos. How are they gonna write out Carrie Fisher? And it's gonna be like in the crawl, Princess or General Leia has decided to retire quietly.
10 years,
the asteroid that was Coruscant.
Yeah, it is. 10 years has passed. General Leia has passed, and Poe Dameron is running the rebellion with his lieutenant's reign.
That's how I think we can all agree to stop reading into Star Wars. After
the Snoke fiasco, where everyone was like, "Oh, it's Ezra from Rebels," or the Knights of Rey and Sabine and all this crap, and it's just like, okay, well, they're clearly not going to do any of that stuff for it.
Dude, if it was Ezra, that would be amazing. I would have that would have been the one thing you could have kept the Luke stuff, and you make Snoke Ezra. I'm kind of in. Yes, that would have been rad.
Me effing too. There was so much cool stuff you could have done, but I'm always gonna have to go into these things and say, like, did I enjoy my experience at the movie? If it is, I liked the movie. Now after that, I can say, okay, I liked it, but it's not a great movie, like we do with like Con Air and Armageddon and all those other movies that are guilty pleasures or whatever. This movie is somewhere like in this nebulous, weird, random, like other zone of like, it's not great, but it's not like terrible. It's not like a guilty pleasure. I enjoyed it, but I wish they had done these other things that we've talked about. And, I think you're right. I don't think it's going to hold up particularly well. I think Force Awakens is going to hold up better than this movie, quite honestly. Probably because it was like a scene for scene remake of A New Hope, which also held up really well. I think this one's going to be, if the trilogy goes as it kind of seems to be going, and as a lot of trilogies do, the second movie is oftentimes like that weird middle one. And I think that we might get to that point with this, where like Force Awakens was like set up, and then there's this weird middle movie, and then here's the ending of the trilogy, right? And it's going to be a clear ending to this trilogy. And I think that they're going to do that, and this is going to be that weird middle movie. Instead of the original trilogy, which we love because the weird middle movie was fucking amazing, right? Like it was the best of the series. So, that's definitely not this.
And it was the one George had the least amount to do with. Yeah. No accident with that one. So Captain Phasma, dead or alive?
Alive.
To come back and get killed by Finn in 5 seconds. I love how they do all this
trilogy. Like, oh, we killed Phasma. Like
you killed Phasma.
Like totally does something weird and then dies, and then shows up, does something weird and dies. I think that's just going to be how this goes. There's a whole book. Have you seen that a book came out about Phasma? I might read it just to see.
Oh my god, yeah. If you have to put it in a book and you couldn't explain it in the movie, that's bad. I'm not going to read any of those books. So I forgot who's the girl with the big glasses that they were talking to, playing laser tag or whatever she was doing when she told him to. I forgot her name. La Cañada. That town in LA, La Cañada, which really says La Canada.
Yes,
her. And okay, so La Cañada, that's not her name. Phasma, Kylo's helmet.
Maz
Kanata, thank you. You saw how they ceremoniously or unceremoniously just got rid of those things. And it was clear, like, here, fans, we know you didn't like these characters. They're gone. We didn't like this helmet. It's gone. There's way too much of that. God, Disney, don't listen to the fans. I mean, like, really don't.
Except for on that thing, you should have listened to us on that one.
Yeah, I'm no, but honestly, don't. Like, fans are like the worst people to listen to, including myself. I totally agree that you got to have confidence in your story, and yeah. So I guess the mask is gone now. All those cosplayers are gonna be pissed. It's like, I spent a lot of money on that mask.
Like,
Now I gotta crush it. Yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of that. It seemed like they became self-aware a little bit. That was another weird thing, but yeah. Otherwise, yeah. I have. Are you going to see this movie again, John?
well, okay, I don't go to the theater very often, right? So
No,
I'm
you
definitely
don't.
not going to see it again in the theater. But
Totally
yeah,
am. Agreed.
I think I'll watch it again, but probably more, like I said, in the context of watching like Star Wars. Like I don't think I'll ever watch the prequels ever again because they're just so unnecessary. But I could see myself definitely watching A New Hope through Episode 9 at some point in my life. How about you?
I think it's kind of. It's kind of like how I can't watch the original Matrix anymore. If I can, I think there's been a lot of time, so I think I can watch it and just forget the other two exist.
Yeah.
I think there'll be a time where I can just watch. Yeah, I can still watch the original trilogy and just
out of 3 instead of like 3 movies out of 9 or whatever. You like the volume is enough to like urge you to like Harry Potter, right? There are good and bad Harry Potter movies, but you're not going to skip the bad ones. You're going to watch, like, if you sit down to marathon Harry Potter, you're going to watch them all.
yeah. But because there was more good ones, and there was a good one at the end, and there was a good one in the middle, and there's a decent one. Well, I think the third one's the best one. I know you and I disagree about that one, but the third one's like the one where it really gets going for me. And we love that story. And by the way, this generation loves to. I mean, like that's your Star Wars right there for the millennials and stuff. You got Harry Potter.
Yeah,
that's arguably better than Star Wars. I know, like, that might be sacrilege to some people, but it's longer, it's more in depth. Yeah, I don't know. I think that would be a great debate for some people someday. For me, Game of Thrones, the books could be my Star Wars if George finishes them and ends them well. It depends. Otherwise,
I think the show's badass too. Again, there's good and bad in it, but I would say that
I bought season 7 on Blu-ray, but I thought about it. I was like,
yeah.
on it. And that was like such a no-brainer for me. But this last season, whew, it's like I said, it's happened to a lot of fandom and a lot of shows. Like 2017 was rough on entertainment. Some good new stuff has come out, thank God. But like the established stuff is like taking the shorts. Walking Dead has kind of been sucking a little bit. Game of Thrones kind of been sucking. But thank God we got like Mr. Robot and Westworld and Ash
Runaways.
Runaways is damn good. There's a lot of good stuff out there. So yeah, I guess we can.
I just want to throw one thing out that's not Star Wars related, but the trailer was before the Star Wars that I saw. That Ready Player One trailer is so, like, I'm blown away by that trailer.
Was it the new one? I didn't catch that one. Or are you talking about the Comic-Con one?
I'm not sure. No, I think it came out. I think
one just came out, right?
Yeah. It's way better than the Comic-Con one. I was worried after the Comic-Con one.
Oh, were you? Okay.
This one, I'm very, very impressed. I'm curious to see how it is, but I'm excited for it. So I'm crossing my fingers for some Ready Player One next year.
Oh man, again, I lost faith in Spielberg a long time ago, but maybe he can rekindle it. The trailer, I liked the Comic-Con trailer. I thought it was good. I haven't read the book or anything. I've heard amazing things about it, and it looked fun. It totally looked fun. I like everything about that. But I think it's high time. It's like, it's cool. Let's do this nostalgia thing for a little while, and then for God's sakes, will somebody just write something like The Expanse is something new. That is like not based on anything. It's something new. We need more of that.
I think that's the genius of Ready Player One, though, is that it is a nostalgic trip, but it's like very much a unique, interesting thing built.
No, it looks that way. Yeah, I can't. Yeah. No, I know you're super excited about it, and I know it's like right down your alley of what you like entertainment wise.
Yeah.
And just seeing that, what is it, the Akira cycle?
Yes.
And the DeLorean just in the same scene was cool. How can you not like that?
Right.
You must not like puppies and ice
comic
cream.
book characters all over the place. My buddy Rich Wharfrat in the chat said it was good, but it needed more Lady Hawk, which is a joke from the book itself. Lady Hawk sucks. No, it doesn't. So I just can't wait for Ready Player One. It's gonna be sick.
I know.
Got to read the book, man. You got to read the book.
I will read the book. I'm sorry, I'm reading some of the this would be incredible, but I want to see what he does with Dune so long as Brian Kevin stays far away from it. Oh, what did I miss about Dune?
I don't know. There's too many comments to
I
go back
love Dune. Oh, I hate missing comments though, because you guys take the time to write them. I want to read them before they disappear.
I know.
I like how Mark says, what other two Matrix films? There were none. I'm sorry I even brought it up.
Don't exist. Heresy.
The first Matrix was my favorite. I would love to see Dennis Villanueva take on a Matrix or do Star Wars. Oh, do Star Wars. Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be totally cool. Agreed.
There's way too much
with Dune.
He's
doing something with Dune. Oh, that's cool. I want to see a good eyes. Okay, I loved the Dune movie. As bad as it was, I freaking loved it. When it came out, but that was at a time when there was only we'd only get a few movies a year that were worth of crap. So I don't know. Sadie Lipa said, interesting how when Empire was originally released, it was met with mixed reactions, and it wasn't until years later was it recognized for its greatness. Is this possible here? I don't think so.
No, it's gonna be the opposite.
Because when I saw Empire, I think the mixed reviews were partially the critics back then were all stuffy idiots.
Yeah, it's the opposite. Yeah.
Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel were the only two that were kind of semi-modern that would even most of them, anything sci-fi, they just hated anyway. Star Wars was the anomaly because Star Wars was the first movie that broke through. Logan's Run wasn't a critical success, even though it was awesome movie, but people hated it back then. But back then, movies like that did well despite critics. They didn't have the sway that they thought. Superman the movie also got pretty good reviews, and that was rare. It was when Raiders, that's what made a movie special. When Raiders came out and got so many positive reviews, that was a special thing. I have a scrapbook somewhere around here with all the reviews of Star Wars, Raiders, and stuff that I kept as a kid. I'll break it out sometime. That's how much of a dork I was. I would cut out positive movie reviews and reread them. There was nothing to do. Okay. But with Empire, with this movie now, there's almost too many reviews. I don't even believe, for one, please stop let's get the celebrities and people who work in the industry to go to see the movie earlier so they would tweet about it. That's become a thing now. That needs to stop because none of them are going to say anything bad about the movie because they want to work. And the more power Disney has, the more sway they have over Hollywood. I know, I don't know what your friends say, but I know the other friends that I have who work in the industry are completely, they hate this deal. They hate it because Disney's going to have way too much freaking power. We should almost do a whole podcast on that. I think the more I think about it, the more I think this is a really, really bad thing. I think it's just bad. I love to see FF and X-Men and all that stuff in the MCU, but at what cost? At what price, people? So I don't know. I just think back to that question. I think this movie time will be hard on it, to be honest.
I think so too. I just don't. It wasn't it was a fun ride, right? If you enjoyed it, it was a fun ride. If you didn't, there was nothing, right? It's a nothing movie, and that's the problem with it. Is I enjoyed it. It was a fun ride, but there's no heart to it. There's no soul in the movie. It's all pure entertainment, and I'm cool with that once in a while. I think this is the right venue for it. Star Wars is to me the right venue for it. It's a family sci-fi camp adventure, right? With
those can have heart. Sky High has heart, has tons of heart.
And the original,
the little Disney movie.
No, I agree with you, and that's why I think it's going to be not loved over time.
Yeah, Langley makes a good point about Rogue One. I have only seen it in the theaters. Like if I went back and watched it again, I'd probably find tons of flaws with it. And that's what I've heard from a lot of my friends too. I actually own it on Blu-ray and have, I watched part of it, and I have to say that as far just on 1080p side and a 3D, one of the best transfers I've ever seen on Blu-ray. Period. Was Rogue One.
Rogue One's funny because I said it on the last podcast, but it's a tale of two movies to me. Like I thought it was a really rough beginning to like first half and a really stellar second half. It was a cool heist in the second half, but the character development early on in that movie was like tough to get through.
Yeah, Leah makes a great point, and yeah, that we like to continually compare stuff to Empire is just not fair. Because it was such a special thing. Empire and Blade Runner kind of are one and the same. They came out a couple of years from each other. They were both pretty. They split. Like some people loved them, some people didn't. There was very mixed reviews, and it was much later that people started really loving. Yeah. Empire was always my favorite as a kid, and I always loved Blade Runner as a kid, but I always liked weird stuff. I was not a normal kid. So yeah, the only reason I liked it because I was just way too into that stuff. I don't know. Yeah. Again, not a normal kid. Well, who is a normal kid?
As a kid, for me, Jedi was my favorite. Like I was, I just remember like seeing the speeders through the trees scene, and like that to me was what stuck out about Star Wars after I had seen all of the movies, like the speeders and like the forest stuff for some reason really struck me.
Like all filmed 100 miles or 50 miles north of us here.
Yeah. So I don't know. I definitely was for some reason was a Return of the Jedi kid.
Oh, you were younger. I mean, I was 13 when Jedi came out, and what stuck out for me is I hated the Ewoks, but it was half a good movie because like half of the movie is just brilliant. And at the end, when Darth is all your sister, I mean, like that gave me chills, dude. And then like Luke's all no, and that music and everything was just perfect in that scene, man. I was just like, oh my god, this is what I've been waiting for. So that made Jedi perfect for me. Yeah, even though like, oh, you guys probably don't remember this. When the Emperor is like cackling at Luke at some point, there was some kind of makeup on his cloak. So they scratched it out on the film, and you could see the black spot like sitting there, and that always get out of me watching the movie. I'm like, God damn, and like I don't know if that's probably all been fixed now. I don't know if anybody's seen that. But there's a bunch of stuff like that in Jedi. Like I'll never forget the floating black spot covering up like his makeup smudge and I didn't know it was a makeup smudge till way later. But yeah, there's stuff like that I kind of miss. But
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, see, I love the Emperor. Oh, the black hole. We talked about the black hole a couple podcasts ago. That was a cool movie. It was terrible, and I loved it. Tron gets all kinds of love. That's when Disney started doing like live action sci-fi stuff, and like they started out with Black Hole and did Tron, and that's when because before that it was just animation. That's all they did. That's when they started branching out and doing real movies. Well,
and that's what Disney in this Fox deal, everyone came out and said, well, what are you going to do with Deadpool? And they're like, look, there's a room for this. We're going to start. So Disney's really saying like, with this deal, we're ready to start integrating some more adult content. And I think that's really smart of them.
So you think they keep the Fox brand as like their rated R brand?
I have no idher
I have no idea. Get rid of the Fox brand. That's a tremendous brand.
It would be weird.
I go this every time, and I'll say it again. In the early 90s, Disney had bad times in the 80s. There was like Disneyland was like half the rides were broken all the time. There was a bunch of punk rockers and drinking and doing drugs and hanging out there. Hello. Getting kicked out because like they would kick people out who had colored hair. I had a blue mohawk. I got kicked out of Disneyland for my hair. It probably went along with all the stuff I was doing there too. But in the 90s they had a resurgence, right? And their stock went crazy. And was it Eisner? The guy Eisner was running it, that great CEO. And they decided to start buying shit. And they bought a couple of sports teams. They bought the Mighty Ducks, or they started the Mighty Ducks, I believe, or they bought them. I think they bought them. They didn't start them. Who were named after a Disney property. And they bought the Anaheim Angels. and they went on a buying spree and they started buying all this stuff. Then they hit hard times again and they sold them. And everybody thought like, hey, Disney's getting in the sports game. You know, they bought ESPN. They bought these 2 sports teams. Man, they're going to do gangbusters. Well, look at ESPN today.
Yep.
They don't own those 2 sports teams anymore. Don't think for 1 second they will not sell off Marvel or Star Wars or pieces of it or parts of it at some point.
Yes.
That's going to happen.
Sure. I mean, it could.
You could be like Warner Brothers owning Spider-Man. That could happen in our lifetime.
Yeah, no, for sure. It could. I think the bigger thing with this deal is everyone's talking about the consolidation, but the consolidation of what's happening with this deal is mostly it's like a large licensing deal. Yeah, there's Hulu thrown in there. There's jobs, right? But they're not getting the sports or the news. The networks are still kind of their own thing. So, you know, I think that this.
You don't think it's too much power?
I mean, they already have a ton of power. Like, I don't think that this swings the needle as much as it seems like it would. I think it swings the needle, but I just don't. It's really like they own a lot of properties now, right? They own a little bit more bandwidth, but Disney could have just started those things from scratch. You know, like I just don't think. I don't know.
I wasn't joking, Langley. It could have. That would be such an affront. And you're probably right, you know, but you know me, I'm paranoid. So like, I don't like anything having too much power at all. I just, you know.
Yeah, no, I'm overlooking the bad stuff for the good stuff in this deal. And I'm not somebody who's ever worried about what Disney's going to do with stuff because they own so much stuff that you don't even realize like they don't put their stamp on everything. They have their like brand and then they kind of have all these silos all over the place, right? It's like Coca-Cola owns like everything. Like Dasani is Coke. You would never know it, right?
It's kind of like that list. I used to have it printed out, and you'd want to give it to all your vegan friends of everything they use a cow for.
Yes,
right. It's like 10 pages long with like size 12 font of just it's in your car seats, it's in license plate frames, it's everywhere. A piece of a cow. So yeah, you're right. And Disney's probably owns.
So this is like a big deal, but it's mostly just a huge licensing deal. Like it's as if Netflix went out and like bought like a shit ton of content and other platforms to distribute, to put that content on, right? So it's just I don't know, it's just more
That's
shit.
a good point. Does Tarantino work for Disney now? That would be odd. I think he's just kind of on his own. It's all been independent. That'd be funny. He's doing a Star Trek movie.
So weird.
They could let JJ make the Silmarillion. No, no. Although he might be perfect for it since the book is so freaking disjointed. But no, Hollywood has been a huge conglomerate, influence oriented for ages now. Not new at all. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm just, like I said, I'm paranoid. I'm the guy who bases his life on the zombie apocalypse. Like I buy a car. I have to have 4-wheel drive because of zombie apocalypse. You know. My house has got to be on bedrock because I live in San Francisco. That was the first thing I was like, if I'm going to buy a house in San Francisco, it has to be on bedrock.
They're like, yeah, that's Daly City, buddy. The whole city's built on land.
I pay San Francisco. I know.
You're in San Francisco
property. Oh, if you throw a rock that way, you hit Daly City. That's for sure.
But yeah, there's no bedrock because the whole thing's built on water, essentially.
It's on, yeah. Right after with Taylor Swift doing a cover of Rush's Spirit of the Radio. Oh, don't give her any ideas. That was good. We should end it up. That was freaking funny. I think Disney told Miramax a while back. Yep, they did. I think they're going to change their mind on R-rated movies. They have to, because Ryan Reynolds will be out. And listen, that's Deadpool. I'm not even the biggest Deadpool fan, and that movie is a great comic book movie. That's like one of the best comic book movies ever made. Would you disagree with that, John?
No. I mean, I don't know if I would agree that it's one of the best. I don't know. Maybe it's good. I liked it. It was a risky, fun movie, and it was well written. I had some stylistic choices. I didn't love some of the visual qualities of the movie.
Yeah, again, that's not your cup of tea. Well, you know what? The Deadpool I like hasn't been in comics many years. Okay, so at least 15 years. Yeah. So
cool. So what do you have coming up this week? We've got Runaways on Monday. Gifted's off right now.
Yeah, we need some shows. We definitely need ideas. We're light. Mr. Robot is over. Gifted's taking a break. Star Trek Discovery's not back till the end of January. So the only thing we're covering now is Happy and the Runaways.
Yep.
That's it. And then we're doing our Friday night podcast.
With those shows. It's good though. We've got the holidays. We can take a couple weeks. And,
I'm not. So Black Mirror. We talked about Black Mirror. I think it premieres the 29th. Dennis and I will be covering Black Mirror for sure.
Cool.
And then whatever pops up. We'll definitely be doing this every Friday night. We love talking to you guys. This is seriously one of my favorite things to do. And so John, and all of our videos and everything is on nerdrotic.com. I have a Twitter. It's at Nerdrotics. What's your Twitter, John?
My Twitter is at Jon Reed 16. That's JONREED 16. Liam, before we go, Liam says review some Netflix shows. Maybe let us know in the comments, not the live comments, but the actual comments that get carried over, what other Netflix shows you might want us to cover, because that sounds like fun.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm totally open to suggestions. If leave them in the comment, or you can email me. There's an email in the about section of our channel, or nerdrotics@gmail.com. You can always email me with requests or anything. So I guess that's it. All of our links will be in the description. I want to make one announcement before we go.
Sure. In February 1st, we're going to be launching a Dungeons and Dragons game, and we're going to be launching that on a new Twitch channel called TPK Games, which is all in affiliation with Nerdrotic. So if you're into Dungeons and Dragons, we're going to be streaming some fun stuff we got a whole team of podcasters to come in and play some Dungeons and Dragons. So stay tuned in the new year. February 1st is our launch date as of now. We've got practice games going on in the background, and we're prepping for the whole thing technically. So
how often is this going to run, John?
It's going to be every other week on Thursdays. We're going to go live at 4:30 p.m. Every other Thursday. So it'll start on the February 1st, and then every other week thereon. We're going to have some other stuff on that Twitch channel too, though. We're going to be running some one-off role-playing games and some video game streaming and that sort of thing. So keep your eye out over there. But the first big thing is going to be this. Warfrat said, "Oh man, sounds crazy." He's saying that because he's actually our dungeon master. He's going to be running all of those games for us. So, Rich, it's going to be fun.
Cool. All right, I got nothing going on in February, man.
Watch some Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, I'll be watching that, of course. Maybe I should. I don't know. I was always a really crappy player, but I was also really high when I played. So
we'll get you on. We'll get you on for a guest seat every once.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Okay, so anything else, John?
Nope, that's it.
All right. May the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. See you later soon. Something.
Bye-bye.